everyone, happy Wax on Wednesdays. A question I get asked a lot is if it's possible to do multiple transfers on a single encaustic piece. And yes, it is. And so I thought it'd be a lot of fun to do that today in today's Wax on Wednesdays. And I have printed out a couple of transfers from the Graphics Fairy. And this is just some French script. And I've left a link, a direct link to her site and also to the exact two images that I used on the blog, on the Plays with Paper blog, and the link to today's post is below the video here. So if you want to check out the exact transfers that I made, that I used from the Graphics Fairy, or any of the supplies that I used, you can always check on the blog every week. So here I've printed out the script, the French script, in reverse on my laser printer. And for these images, you want to use either a laser printer or a toner-based copy from the copy machine store. Older copy machine is better. I'm leaving a link because I get asked a lot too, what printer are you using for these image transfers? That's also included on the supply list in the blog today, is exactly what printer I use, which is a Samsung laser printer. So probably the most important step for these transfers is burnishing it down. I just use the back end of a spoon, I find is best to burnish the image down onto the encaustic surface. And I change every single direction. I will turn it every which way. I'll go in circles and straight across, and cover every single part of that image to make sure that I have not left any part of that image behind. And I usually have a little 5-minute rule for pieces that are small like this one, where I will burnish it down for 5 minutes and in every single direction to make sure that I'm getting a good bond with the encaustic surface. And the fun part of this technique is removing all of that paper pulp and revealing just the toner left on the encaustic surface. And to do this, I'm just simply using a little cup of water and my hand and going lightly over in little light circles and just gradually removing that paper pulp from the encaustic surface. So this step of the project takes quite a few minutes too, because I'm rubbing just very, very, very softly, rubbing that paper away and just revealing the toner on underneath. And I do it until I can't feel any of that paper on the encaustic surface. And that's another question I get asked quite a bit when I'm doing a transfer demo or transfers in the workshops, is when can you tell that it's done? Well, when I can't feel the paper ball up under my fingers anymore, then I would call that done. And there's always possibly a little bit of fuzzy paper left if you leave it out to dry. I usually leave it out to dry for about 5 or 10 minutes afterwards, depending on the size. And that paper pulp will start to dry on the surface and you can see it better. So you can see if you have to go back in and wet your fingers again and get some more of that paper off. But if there's just a little tiny bit left, you can usually fuse it in. Here I'm using an Iwatani torch. I like the Iwatani because I can turn it way, way down, which I do for things just like this technique, which is fusing in the transfers. I have to have a very light flame for this so that I don't break up the toner and break up the image that I'm fusing. So I give it a very light fuse just to a glisten, and that means till the wax comes to just a very light shine. And if there's any little extra pulp there, it's going to fuse into the wax surface. So now I'm just taking a clear layer of encaustic medium and putting it right over that transfer. And I'm going to go ahead and fuse that in. And again, I'm fusing it very light because that toner still has a chance of breaking up even underneath this layer of wax. So you still want to have a very, very light touch with this fusing. And I'm just fusing it just to a shine until that extra additional layer is fused in as well. And it gets shiny, and that's all I need to know that it's fused. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm adding a couple of thin layers of medium to this just to make sure I have a nice even layer on my surface so that I can add another transfer image. So another important part to this transfers is that I want to have both the first layer and also this second layer that I'm doing now fused as flat as possible. And I have to do it very lightly, of course, on the second layer so I don't break up that toner, but also for both on the first and second layer, it's key to have your surface fused flat, and that way there's no lumps, bumps, ripples in the wax that are going to prevent that image from going on and adhering to the wax surface. If there's a bump underneath this spoon or ripples underneath this spoon, it's going to prevent the image from coming in contact with the encaustic surface, and it's not going to create that bond, and you're going to have breaks in the image. And so it's very important to have a flat surface when you are doing this step. And as you saw, this this transfer is of a Victorian bird cage, and I will again leave the link to this exact bird cage that I used on the blog post for this week. And again, I'm going over, you can see I'm turning it every single which way. I'm going in circles, I'm going straight across. I'm doing everything I can to make sure that there's a bond to every single inch of that bird cage on the encaustic surface. And I'm going to repeat the exact same process where I get a little cup of water and simply go over very softly this image until there's absolutely no paper pulp I can feel under my fingers as I peel away to reveal the toner on the encaustic surface. So adding layered transfer images is a really, really fun technique, and there's no limit at all to the amount of transfers that you can add to any one piece. So I'm going to go ahead and fuse this very lightly again, dry it off a little bit and make sure I don't have any paper pulp left. I'm going to go ahead and fuse it with the Iwatani torch on a very, very low setting and just fuse it to a glisten, which means that wax comes just slightly to a shine, and I've gone ahead and that means it's fused into the wax. I'm going to go ahead after that and add a couple layers of clear medium over the top, and if I wanted to I can add another transfer image, but I'm going to go ahead and stop with this layer. So I hope that you really enjoyed this week's Wax on Wednesdays technique, and I hope that you give it a try. And if you have done multiple transfer layers, then go ahead and comment in the comment box below the video and let us know how it went and how many transfers that you did on one single piece. And so I hope you have fun, and we will see you next Wednesday. Happy Wax on Wednesdays.